Hello, hello. Okay, testing. I hope everybody is good there. Hello, welcome to our first investor webinar for this year. We've just launched a new Reg CF campaign, which obviously is very exciting. And we want to use this time to give some updates on the project, metaKnyts, so you can get a sense of where we're going and how this journey is unfolding. Obviously, it's been a very precarious year for the industry as a whole, but the metaKnyts as a project continues to evolve and go from strength to strength. So today we're going to have a sort of overview on the project, talk about it a lot from the perspective of the product in terms of what's actually going on about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the business. And I think there's a chat that's activated. We're trying out some new software today, so it's going to be a little bit choppy, so bear with us. But, hopefully we'll get a chance to get some questions from everyone out there as well going forward. But without much further ado, I think we should get started. All right. So, many of you are familiar with metaKnyts and know the project and have been following us for a while, but some of you may be new to it. So it's probably a good idea to start with like a good just general overview of what the project is. So metaKnyts, fundamentally, it's a next generation edutainment franchise. It's a next generation media property, a next generation type of story experience. And really that fundamentally comes down to three core things. It is a story and it is a bunch of collectibles, and it's a video game as well. Now that video game itself is evolving into a metaverse story world, and the story itself, we have work that we're doing in terms of expanding that beyond our native format of comics and animations into film, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through the presentation today, or through the through this update today. Overall, as an enterprise, I should go back here and just really talk about this. Metaiye Media as an organization, our mission really is transforming ownership through storytelling and play. And that's really about, we see that blockchain and crypto media, as we call it, is really a new way to experience stories. And one of the big sort of themes that underpins the whole Web3 landscape is this principle of ownership, whether it's, ownership of media, ownership of content, ownership of financial assets, ownership in a decentralized way. And that's a real sort of overarching theme of the Web3 space. And for us, it's really about how do we, that there is a cultural change that's happening through Web3, through this technology-enabled ownership. And for us, it's really about how do we accelerate that through storytelling and play? How do we get people to understand the promise of Web3, the promise of this transformation through storytelling and play? So, we're a very well-developed franchise in that regards. And, in that sense, I'm less of a fan of this term Web3, but I'll use it for simplicity's sake. But in comparison to other projects in the space, we're very well developed. But, ultimately, our mission is about crypto activation, as we call it. And we have a very unique formula that we've constructed around how to do that. And that's basically, to inspire through storytelling. And in that sense, for us, storytelling is really about answering the why of decentralization of these Web3 technologies. Why are they important? And then effectively to teach through learn to play and game. So gaming is really about how. It's really, for us, gaming is about, well, how does this stuff all work? How do wallets work? How do you mint crypto assets and things like that? So we really we see gaming as a means through which we're able to facilitate that how much more seamlessly or in a really natural way to enable people to learn the tools and the skills of Web3 in a very native and natural manner. Now, metaKnyts as a project is really underpinned by some next generation technology as well. You know, as an organization, we worked for a long while in the space around developing next generation primitives in the crypto space. And through our sister company, Metaiye, we've done a lot of work in this space around self-sovereign identifiers and the like. So while on one hand, it is very much about a story and about entertainment, there's also a bigger mission in terms of introducing next generation primitives. And for us, that's very important, even when we think from an NFT or digital collectibles perspective, because in many ways, there are many flaws in the current NFT landscape. And in our view, we've done a lot of innovation, and we'll be introducing a lot of innovation through this project that addresses this, particularly around this third area of secure programmable content. So all of that sort of to come in the future, but that kind of gets more down into the how and the what, beyond the how, even the what space of what this project actually entails in many regards. Now, I don't want to spend too much or stay buried in presentation and decks today. I wanted to actually kind of really use this time to actually showcase some of the actual live stuff that we've actually built. So let's start here in the space of story. And in that regards, I'm going to go over here to our metaKnyts website. So, you know, at the heart of our proposition is a story. And, you know, so part of the reason I wanted to go through the site and walk people through these processes in terms of live stuff, because I know that people get lost a lot in terms of finding where different things are. So I'm going to try and today, as I give this update, use the stuff that is live, that's publicly available, to demonstrate a lot of what we're talking about here. So the first thing is, from the story perspective, we have 13 episodes of the metaKnyts Saga. Our initial format is comics. So we developed the prime story in comic format, but we've also developed a series of motion comics in that space, which we led the industry of, certainly in terms of crypto. We are the first crypto comic, and we are the first comic to be released as NFTs. And, you know, we've been challenged on this previously and have the receipts to prove it. Also, we've not only just introduced metaKnyts as a comic saga, we've introduced it in these motion comic formats. But also, very importantly, I think there are a couple of things that are really important here. So the first is that first comic released in multiple formats. So we have it in digital still, we have in digital motion comic, and we also have print versions of it. So we are very much a digital property, as is often cited. Now, again, another thing that, you know, when we started this project, there wasn't really an NFT industry. And of course, that industry has exploded and then imploded somewhat in the last few months, with many projects emerging using our playbook. Effectively, you know, a large majority of the NFT projects that appeared between 2021 and today had this promise that they were going to release a comic saga or a video game, and they released a collection of NFTs as profile pictures to fund the development of that. We have been the opposite. You know, we ran a crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine, raised $1 million on it, and we use that to build out the IP. So from the outset, you know, this is the powerful thing about the metaKnyts project. The core IP has already been created. So when we start to release these episodes now, you know, we're not reliant on selling NFTs or PFPs to create the core content. And what you will see, a lot of these projects that came into being through raising, well, first of all, again, very few of them would have had good treasury management. So most of those projects will have gone to zero now. And there's nothing that really emerges from that. Yes, you might have a good profile picture or a pretty picture. Aside from the projects that are actually genuine art or that position themselves as art, any of those ones that promise to deliver a saga or a comic saga or an animated saga or a game, you're going to really struggle to see the value from those because they're going to really struggle to deliver on that as well. And even, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about the problems of delivering a story from 10,000 variations on a single character. But that aside, metaKnyts is a very well developed saga, very well developed lore, and it's completely developed the first season of that, which is 13 episodes. And those are available in physical and digital format. You can buy them as paperback or you can buy them as NFTs. I'll just show you very quickly here. This is episode 0 on Amazon. You can see there we have 5 episodes currently available, actually 4 on Amazon. There's a little blip. We had a little correction that's being made on episode number 3 here. So that's not, but that will be on Amazon currently. And episode 5 is about to be released as well. And they're available today in physical and digital format. Via Amazon, they're available around the world. We have collectors in Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, and further afield than that. So a really important aspect of it. And I think, again, one of the things that's really central to our belief about digital collectible media is that the next big wave in this space is really going to be around media. And in that sense, the real revolution of blockchain-based media is to address the issues that happened with digital media from piracy. And I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds about this today, but effectively, we see the big opportunity with crypto media being able to create scarcity in terms of digital media. And that means that these collectible media will be media priced. Think of them like DVDs or CDs in that sense. That's essentially where we see the big revolution of this space. And yes, there will be collectible aspects of them which will fetch thousands of dollars in terms of value. But the primary reason why you buy these things is for the media, because, if you buy a CD, you cannot say that someone has scammed you for selling you a CD. You might say you don't like the music on it, but so long as there's actually 13 tracks on the CD that's on the cover, then there is no scam. And it's basically you've bought a piece of media. And in many ways, that's very similar to our comic proposition with metaKnyts. So it's a very different mindset when we think about collectible media versus the speculative NFT industry that we saw last year and the year before. And we think that as brands, bigger brands, entertainment brands particularly, come into the crypto media space, into the NFT industry, you're going to see a lot more of this media-like propositions around digital collectibles in that regards. So a really key part of our proposition, our core content, our core story, available in multiple formats, digital formats, 13 episodes available today. And as we go through season 1, so we're 5 episodes in at the moment, the 6th one will be out shortly. I should take a moment to talk about the numbering as well, because there's a lot of confusion around this. So our first episode is episode 0. So that's a very important number for us, and you'll find out more about this through the story as well. So season 0, episode 0 is our first episode. Our first 2 pilots are episode 0 and episode 1 in that regards. So when you see our numbers, you can always add 1 to kind of find out what issue we're on. So number 4 is the 5th issue because the first issue is number 0. number 1 is actually the second issue, and hence when we launch season 1, which is 1.0, this is episode number 2, which is the third episode. So it's a little bit confusing, I know, but for us, it's a very important part of the story is the story of Zero. And you can see that in the titles. The first episode is called Gen 0 divided by 1. Next one is all is one, no one is all. So 1 zeros and 1s is obviously a big theme in the Meta saga overall going through. One thing I did want to mention is we're now on a bit of a stampede to release the season, and by the rest of this year we should release all of season 1, and then at the end of the year, at the end of the release of season 1, which will probably be by the end of this year, we will then also compile an anthology, like a graphic novel that brings all 13 episodes together into a graphic novel, into a complete single story. And that's going to be really important because I will talk in a little bit about some of the stuff that we're going to be doing around that, which is going to be really unique and provide our collectors with a uniquely collectible version of the saga in that regards. So that's kind of the key thing from the story perspective. The next thing I want to do is go to the collectibles. And so I think, again, the basic metaKnyts proposition is that there is a story, a portfolio of digital collectibles, and a gaming experience, play to learn to earn gaming experience. That's kind of the heart of it. And the story is told across multiple medium. The collectibles are primarily digital collectibles, but they're phygital as well, and we have print versions of the comic as well, and merchandise and stuff like that you can also see on our site. So I was going through metaKnyts.com earlier, and you can access a lot of the physical goods through that as well. But primarily collectibles, digital, physical collectibles, and then and then gaming through experience. And, part of the game is a story world framework, and we'll talk about that a little bit further in a moment. But primarily gameplay in terms of a video game where we're teaching some of the antics of this space, but also, it's a great fun game, and what we're doing on the gaming side is really pioneering. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly, but a lot of it's super confidential, but some interesting stuff to come in that regards as well. Let's take a little bit of a dive into our collectible strategy, because I think that in itself is another aspect that's very unique in our approach. So let's take a look at that. So on the collectibles front, essentially we look at 3 core types of utilities with our metaKnyts collectibles. So financial utilities, fellowship utilities, and ownership utilities. So and you can see these are sort of anchored around storytelling, play, and sovereignty. So storytelling is really around the Knight books. Sorry, excuse me. I should always switch my phone off before coming into these things. Storytelling is really around the Knight books, which are motion comics, but the various formats, and Knight posters. We'll show you a little bit more about what those are in a moment. And then inventory. In-game inventory is really kind of key with play and Knight cards. Knight cards and Knight inventory, and you'll see the bridge between these two at the moment. But essentially you can see it quite clearly in this graphic here, whereby Knight cards, which we're about to introduce shortly, and I'll talk about them in a little bit more. But they are a bridge between the comic story and the video game. And so Knight cards are characters from the game. They're trading cards as well, actually. They're trading cards that you can trade to bring aspects of the game to life, of the story to life. And they also give access to in-game inventory. And I'm going to come back to another feature of Knight cards in a moment, but I'll just give you an overview of all of these for the moment, and I'll come back to this slide. And then ownership is really around sovereignty. And as far as that goes, so our Knights owners, our PFPs, profile pictures, are really our primary collectible in this space. And we have two from our Origin collection. The collection will eventually involve 10, but for now we have released two. One is the Emissary, which is a very high profile character within our story. And the second is of our protagonist, Deji, who, as the story unfolds, you'll discover he has other identities and other names that come through. And we're very excited about his prime identity, or his metaKnyt identity, which is really an anchoring point of the story, which sort of gets introduced this season, but it actually gets introduced this season through the Knight cards. So really those are kind of the three pillars, and really there's fundamentally three types of collectibles. There's our story, the Saga, as the Knight books, there's the Knight cards, the trading cards, and the PFPs. There are other ones that we're working on, the metavatars that will come within the game, but those are a bit further down the road, a bit more roadmap orientated. And, you know, with the Knight books, one thing that is very important here is that we've introduced 3 different cover variants for the Knight books. So when you go to mint the Knight books, when you go to buy one of the digital versions of them, you will be randomly assigned one of 3 covers. Now, anyone who's been following this project knows that the numbers 1860 are very important to our saga and very important to our story. So the variations on these books are graded around that. So total, there's 80 for each first edition, which these are. Of these, there's 18,600 in total. Of them, 18,600 rare versions. Then there's 1,860 epic versions, and then 186 legendary versions. So the legendary ones are obviously super rare compared to the rare versions, and the epic ones are rare, are again more rare than the rare versions in that regards. But that's completely randomly assigned. It's just by luck of the draw. When you buy one of these stories, you'll be assigned randomly one of these versions. There's a slight skew towards earlier minting, because obviously we want our early adopters to kind of get most there, but essentially it's completely randomized, and with every episode we follow this trait forward, where you have the same numbers, same volumes, same framework, and these are all different alternative covers that you'll be assigned with each one of these. And I think I can show you if I go to OpenSea. So again, in the spirit of just kind of making all of this a lot more practical, so you can see how this stuff actually really works. You know, if you go to metaKnyts and you were to mint one of these, you know, you connect your wallet. Some people have been experiencing problems with different browsers and different operating systems. These variations show differently, but usually you get MetaMask or Wallet Connect, and you can connect your MetaMask wallet to it, and then you have the option to mint with wallet. You can buy it via on paperback with Amazon directly. That's very straightforward. I don't need to explain that. But if you go to mint with wallet, you know, you would basically go here and you would be open to this MetaMask browser. You'll see in a second, and you basically commit. Now, I will say one problem that I have been finding a lot with MetaMask of late is that if you just do it normally like this and you confirm, it tends to not process. So one trick is you can go here and increase the gas fees that you pay. And I would suggest going to aggressive. Matic is very cheap. It's less than a cent generally for these transactions. even though it is actually getting more expensive by the day now. But, you know, you can see the gas fee is, you know, 0.083 gas. So it's less than it's less than $1. It's like, so then you can then confirm that, and that will ensure that your transaction goes through. So, excuse me, it's less than, that's on the aggressive, super aggressive, where you can pay like $1 in gas fees to ensure your transaction goes through. Although I'm not going to do it because I've got several versions of them, but that's essentially how you would mint one of those. And then basically you will then go to OpenSea and you connect your wallet. This is the metaKnyts Nightbook wallet. So you can see we've got the different collections here, which include all the 5 episodes that have been made available. It's a night card that we did for NYU. It shouldn't really be in this collection, but anyway, it is. And then if I go into one of these collections, you can see, so these are the different versions of the books, and this is priced high to low. If I go price, if I go recently created, then you'll see, so the most recent person to mint got a legendary version, whereas you can see the 5th person before that got an epic version. So you see they're randomly sort of scattered across the minting. But, you know, in view of the fact that there are only 186, and I think there's 40 of these that have been minted thus far, you know, to get a legendary version within that first 40 is obviously really good. So, you know, it does happen in that regards. So I think that's a key aspect of our comics when it comes to minting them that I wanted to walk through and explain. And the next thing I want to talk about in terms of our collectibles is our night cards. Night posters as well, but night cards is really the kind of core thing here. So I'm going to make an important announcement about this. So we haven't released any of these as yet. Well, actually, some of our early investors, all of our investors actually, to date, have the option to claim a Deji night card, which is the one on the left here. Sorry. I'll just do this again. Sorry. Yeah, so we've only awarded the Deji night card to our investors, and the one that every investor has got is actually one that's got a Star Engine logo. That was from our Reg CF campaigns 1 and 2. There are 13 of these night cards though, and none of the other ones have yet been released. So before I get into the final piece around this, one of the things I did want to show is that we're doing something really interesting with these night cards as well. And before I show you that, I just want to do this just to make life a little bit easier for myself. Yeah, so with these night cards, there are 13 of them. Now, and the 13 are based on characters from the story. Well, 12 of them are actually based on characters from season 1 of the story. There is a 13th one, which is a new one that we're introducing, and this is our Reg CF site. We'll talk about this in a little bit further, but you'll have those who have been following the project will know that we signed a licensing agreement with Lio Rush, who's a WWE, AWE wrestler. He's wrestled in many of these formats, and we've introduced a character called Night Rush, which is a new character, and not actually in season 1, but will be featured in season 2 and potentially with a spin-off series around that as well. And Leo, we're working with Leo to actually create to bring this character to life, and he's going to be bringing this character to life as a wrestling persona, aligned with his Lio Rush persona. So Night Rush and Leo Rush, are aligned. The styling of this character is a little bit what's called in the industry stylized, because and Leo's doing a lot of work in Japan at the moment. And so we're going to be introducing this as a way to sort of tap into the Japanese market around the metaKnyts saga in many ways. So that's quite exciting in terms of the Knight cards. But another thing that is really exciting about Knight cards that I want to talk about and introduce today is that I mentioned that at the end of the season, when we've released all 13 episodes, we're going to create a graphic novel. Well, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to give people, our collectors, a way to have a personalized version of that graphic novel. And the way that it's going to work is that you have to have collected all 13 episodes of the comic. So collecting the 13 episodes of the comic with the different variant, and depending on which covers you've got, will read from your wallet. And what you'll then have to do is have these 13 Knight cards. And we haven't released them yet, but we'll be releasing them soon. And we're working out the tokenomics of it, whether you'll be able to buy them as a complete pack, which you probably will be able to do, but also have individual ones. A randomly selected pack. The pack will be randomized. And again, we're just working through, we probably will do the different levels of rarity with the Knight cards as well. So basically what will happen is you'll have 3 levels of rarity with the Knight cards, 3 levels of rarity with the Knight books, which is the episodes. And then what you'll also then have is your own profile picture based on which PFPs you have. So let's go here. So for example, Emissary is our first PFP, our lead PFP. And again, just to kind of help everyone understand this. So when you go to metaKnyts, so, you can buy the comics here as Knight books, but then the Origin collection are these PFPs. And as I mentioned, we have 2 of them. So one is the Emissary and the second is Deiji, who's like the first metaKnyght. And each one of these is unique image. They're created by these fantastic artists, Chantel, Tayo, Valerie, and Nez, whom, again, anyone who's been following the project will know about them, particularly with the Emissary, which we launched the Origin collection with. So what's going to happen at the end of the season for our super collectors, if you have an Emissary, a Deiji, a full collection of Knight cards, and a full collection of Knight books, you will get your own unique version of the graphic novel, which will have all 13 episodes, but it will also then have a collector's book. And that collector's book will have your own personalized covers based on your PFPs, front cover and rear cover, Emissary on the front, Deiji on the rear. And then it will also have your specific collection of covers that you have from your Knight books and your specific rarity of Knight cards as well. So this will now give you a basis where you have your own version of the story, effectively, whereby based on your collection of Knight cards, your collection of Knight books, and your collection of PFPs. And that will effectively be a way of you binding your whole collection. Now, you can sell them all separately. They're all kind of still separate assets. So you could potentially still sell your individual comics separately. But having them all together, you need to have them all together. You will need to have them all together to be able to claim your own personalized version of your Knight book. But that will give your collection a very personal element to it, but its own unique value as well. And the other thing that I'm excited to announce today, which we've had lots of questions about before, is derivative rights. And this is a thing that's very big in the NFT community, and it's very controversial in some regards, and it's something that has to be managed carefully, and we've explored it for many reasons. We are going to be introducing derivative rights, a kind of a derivative right based around the PFP that you own specifically. So if you own Emissary number 100 here, for example, Symbolic. There you go, brother. Symbolic Knight, who's in fact, you'll hear from Symbolic. That's completely random. I didn't know that this was Symbolic's PFP, but you'll hear it, something that Symbolic recorded for metaKnyts very shortly. But so if you're Symbolic here, as is the owner here, you'll be able to you will get your own cover based on Emissary 100. So Symbolic will have derivative rights for Emissary 100 and can create the derivatives of the Saga based around Emissary 100. And based on the characters that you will have derivative rights for those specific characters, not for the whole saga, not for the rest of the story, because we have to be very careful about that because we are negotiating film deals and other IP extension deals. But you will have it for this unique version of the emissary that you have. So this becomes quite powerful because if you can imagine now whereby you have your own anthology of the metaKnyts season 1, which is the entire 13 episodes with this collector's edition side book effectively, which is, got your own personalized covers, front and rear covers with your own specific variations of covers throughout the book. And then you have derivative rights around those cover images, those cover entities, your emissary and your Deiji. You now have the basis to kind of build your own metaKnyts story forward from that. They are built on top of that. So we're really excited about that. And a lot more information we'll be sharing about that as goes forward. But a real sort of reason to effectively own the PFPs and own the books and it's a real kind of reward for our super collectors in that regards. We don't expect everyone to do this, of course, but for those who are super collectors, this is going to be major. And I think, you only really need to look at the narrative and the debate that's going on around AI today, which, it's funny. My co-writer wrote me yesterday and he said, it's like, if you look at the zeitgeist of the discussion that's happening in the tech industry today, it is entirely what the metaKnyts story is about. We have been talking about, the story is about the birth of a new kind of AI. An AI that is human-centered to deal with all these risks and dangers around AI that we're seeing today. So yes, it is about decentralization and decentralized data, but the ultimate reason why all of these things need to be decentralized is so that we are safe from the dangers of AI and that we can create safe, ethical AI. So this story is so on point with the issues that we are facing in the technology industry today. And it's creating a new way of telling stories. And, we are so excited about some of the developments that we have underway and unfolding. We remain completely ahead of the industry in terms of these things. But, having your own personal version of the story, I think is going to be a really good way to balance this, storytelling versus individualization. Because again, a lot of these NFT projects out there have, say that they give you your own character and you're going to have your own personalized experience of the story, and that AI is going to write the story. We don't think that there is a place for that, and I'll talk about that a little bit, just a tiny little bit, in terms of what we're developing in the gameplay space. But we think that's where it belongs. We think in terms of storytelling, humans tell the best stories still. And so we want to find a way that we can give an individualized, personalized experience, but really wrapped around a story, a lean back story experience that is told by great storytellers. So, I think that's an important clarification. There's a difference between a lean back story, like watching a film or watching a TV show, versus a lean forward story experience, like playing a video game, where you're much more engaged and you're, participating. But in a lean back experience, you still want you want to be entertained, and you want to be led through a story, even in a way that's personalized, individualized. And that's what we're cracking with metaKnyts in that regards. So I think yeah, we've covered derivative rights and the collector's edition, and I think that's going to be a really exciting piece for it. The other side of the night cards. So in that sense, just to kind of recap, night cards will give you a way of activating your episodes and creating an individualized, personalized version of the story for yourself, bound between your two PFPs. And we will give you identities, metaKnyts identities. There's a lot of stuff we've got on the identity side as well, which I don't have the time to get into today, but there'll be more information around that coming soon. So you'll have your metaKnyts identity that will be your own decentralized identifier and your own domain name and all of that stuff. But also, night cards will also give you in-game inventory. So night cards are very much the bridge between the comic saga and the game. And this is an example. If you look at, this previous version of Deiji's night card, for example, we can see he holds this spear, which is kind of one of his special powers and special weapons. Each night card is a character from the saga, and each character has special powers and special skills. So the PFPs are the Night Zoners. The PFPs will be skins in game, which will give you the powers, and the night cards will give you the weapons or the tools that each of the characters has. So in Deiji's case, he has the spear or sphere of destiny, and this is it in game as a particular inventory. You'll have seen this in some of our promo materials around the game, but so by owning that night card, you'll have access to this weapon in game as well. So that's a really important aspect to get into. So on that, I think it's probably a good idea to then talk about the game in this regards as well. So this one, there is some stuff. I'm going to, on this one, I'm going to lean back a bit and play you a couple of videos that are showcasing where we are and what we're doing with the gaming side of things. It's quite exciting, but let me give my voice a pause for a second and play you some of the stuff around this. So excuse these transitions, but let's go with this one for starters. Yeah. I do have to say, this is actually Symbolic, who coincidentally is owner of MS3 100, but this rap here being performed about metaKnyts here is actually by Symbolic. So kudos to brother Symbolic Knight out there. Thanks for and yeah, check it out.
Yeah. We need life at ease, food and trees, and NFTs, but most of all, we need to be free. Slow burn, not all hype, decompression, chamber type plan, alright? Smash those supremacy goals and laws. You signed up but didn't read the fine print and clause. Give those fang foes pause. Fast forward, they analyze AI eyes, trained to claim our prize. Most don't know, they don't realize it's all tied. Eyes glued to what you do, who you know, where you reside. Sucking your life to grow the lie. Down a slippery slope we slide, roll over your third eye. Fight to change the tide, free ride, that was a lie. Good or evil energy is a fight to flip the tide. Thought privacy to die, you never do the metaKnyts. Down a slippery slope we slide, roll over your third eye, battle to change the tide, enter the metaKnyts.
Excellent stuff. So let me just do this. What I'm going to do is just show you a couple of more of these game orientated videos. I'm going to keep the volume down on these just so you can see. But yeah, so we're really excited about the gameplay, and basically there's three aspects to the metaKnyts game. One is going to be the gameplay itself, and core game dynamics in that sense. The second is going to be integration of blockchain with our wallet, so that you can own the assets that you have outside of the game and move them in game and move them between games. And then the third is character customization, where you'll be able to create your own personal avatars and own those as digital assets. Now, I know this is something that a lot of people, we brought up in our first campaign. We did deliver sort of individualized avatars, but it's not being in line with our vision. Our vision will be that you'll have an avatar that you will create in-game that you can own, and that's what we're working on the alpha version of the game. We've got some really exciting developments coming soon in terms of some of the partners that we're talking to around this. I can't really go into any detail about them at the moment, but there's a lot of really exciting stuff that we're doing on the gaming side with a leading metaverse platform. The most important one, I think, in the industry out there, and we'll be talking further about that soon. We also have a partnership with a simulation company that is literally allowing us to create real-world digital twins of major cities as a basis for the game. So again, that's something that we'll be talking about in more detail shortly. And also we have another MOU with a really interesting marketing company out of Germany. Again, it's kind of confidential at the moment in terms of who they are, but they are basically working on ways to bring brands into metaverse frameworks through billboards. And so, of course, we're very, obviously very cautious about, brand participation in these spaces and anything advertising related in that regards. But we have some really interesting novel ideas based on our MetaMe technology and data centricity around that. I think the big story, though, in this space is the work that we've been doing with OpenAI. Now, we've been working with OpenAI since 2021, working with GPT-3, now GPT-4. And we have some really exciting stuff that we're working on in terms of integrating AI into the gaming engine to create individualized game narrative based around user data. And this is really in line with our whole sort of proposition around data sovereignty and data ownership. So that's really exciting in terms of some of the stuff that we've got going there, and other AI engines as well beyond OpenAI. But obviously ChatGPT has stolen the headlines a lot. But the work that we have been looking at here is really interesting. And we have been working with a framework around AI integration into an ethical basis for AI, looking at combining machine intelligence with social intelligence, and we've been doing a lot of work around that we did a lot of work around that in COVID. But metaKnyts is actually a really great place to experiment with this, because it is game and it's fictional, and the dangers are not as acute as they are in other areas. But nonetheless, we can do some really interesting stuff. So I don't want to give too much away about it at the moment, because I know there's a lot of magpies out there. There are a lot of very well-funded projects which are very light on ideas or creative that take a lot. There have been many projects that have copied very much about what we do. So I don't think it's unfair to exercise a degree of caution around that stuff. But yeah, we've got some really interesting plays around how to create, build on our story of Metaiye, of creating a new kind of AI framework based around a combination of human and machine intelligence that we're going to be pioneering and launching and introducing through metaKnyts in that regard. So stay tuned for more information around that as that unfolds as well. I guess I think we can pause this one and escape this for a moment. I did want to show you, yeah, I mean, this is gameplay abilities. I guess the one, just to give a bit of a vision on the wallet integration and how that's going to work and look, as an example. So this is like a configurator engine where you'll be able to basically integrate with different wallets. So this is one of the weapons in our weapons inventory. That you're able to pick up and collect. I think in this one she actually gets this Spear of Destiny as well. This is like one of the key baddies from our story. There's a lot, you see her a lot in a lot of our demo stuff at the moment, but she is actually a baddie. Yeah, so you'll see, yeah, there you go. There's the Spear of Destiny that we were seeing earlier, which she's able to get because, so if you had a Spear of Destiny Knight card owner and you had the director skin, you'd be able to get all of these and use them in-game accordingly. So yeah, lots of really exciting things happening on that front. And I think the last thing I want to just show on the game side of it is if you, I'm not going to do much more on the gameplay. I'm mindful of time and I don't want to go too much over the hour. So I want to, but I do want to just very quickly show you, which you can see on our net capital. So give me 1 second. Let's do this like that. Okay. And transition back over. So on our net capital side, which we'll talk about in a moment, our next CF raise, this is another partnership that we've done with a company called CareSpace. And it just shows you the kind of versatility of the project as well. So I'll just turn this down. Based around our metaverse gaming framework and platform, we're doing this integration with CareSpace, which is a virtual gym framework, and they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff. We'll talk about them in more detail in the future, but they're basically doing a lot of work around real world rehabilitation. They're a healthcare company effectively, and so we've partnered with them to basically use metaKnyts IP as a way to create an environment and framework for exercise and workout and training and rehabilitation and physical rehabilitation based around the metaKnyts Saga. So it's just an example of the kind of partnerships that we're working on around the Saga as well. So, I think I'll stay here on our Reg CF site as I talk about the business developments with the site or with the project. I think we continue to really be pioneers in the space. So, we've launched this additional Reg CF campaign now to continue our fundraising. And for us, we're a community funded project. We have not been funded by VC institutional investors at all. Everything we've built from community funding. And, this is really, we think we're on the cusp of a next big explosion of crypto media. And obviously, we're in the crypto winter and it's looking like we're coming towards a bit of a crypto spring. And obviously, as the crypto industry grows, interest in this space grows. But it's very important for us to make this an inclusive effort to bring more people into the space and to continue to pioneer in that regards. So we moved to Net Capital for our next raise, and primarily because we really like the philosophy of Net Capital around inclusion and making these kind of investments available to everyone. Other platforms kind of do pressure you to kind of raise the price of the minimum investment, so that you can raise more quickly. And we've fallen into that trap in the past, and it doesn't really work for our community. What we want to do is make sure that this investment opportunity is great for our community, because early stage tech companies are the highest performing investment class, bar none, anywhere. And that's the thing about it. Everyone's trying to find, all investors and VCs are trying to find these deals for early stage companies, because that's where you make the maximum amount of money. When a company IPOs, you're never going to make, 1,000x return. and the kind of 10x, 15x, 20x returns that you can do with early stage companies. We've already brought a 6x ROI to our first stage investors based on the valuation of where we are today. So we're really excited to open this next round of our Reg CF, and we've made a commitment that we're going to keep our minimum investment at $100. And as I am now going to say publicly, as long as we continue to do Reg CF raises, we will make sure that there is a $100 minimum entry level so that anyone who wants to own a piece of this next generation of media company can do so. And so, yeah, we invite you all to get involved and support more. Your support is what leads this forward. We know that we have the innovation, we have the IP, both technical and creative IP, to dramatically transform this industry and to become a multi-billion-dollar company. Absolutely. Now, but we're only going to get there with the continued support of our community. We've been able to do a huge amount with very, very little funding. And again, I encourage you all to look at any crypto media, NFT, Web3, comic, gaming project at all, whether it's Web3 or not, that has delivered so much with so little in terms of what we have done. We've raised basically $1.2 million today, and it's amazing the ground that we have achieved with that. Now, there are many exciting developments that are going to take us to the next level on the distribution side. So, next month we are going to be releasing the comics on our partner Comic Republic's platform. Obviously, our first 2 pilot episodes were featured there, and there were top 10 titles there, but we haven't published anything there since our pilots. They have a viewership of 2 million plus users every month, and we're doing a new thing. We're only releasing a couple of pages on the platform and then driving the audience to buy the NFTs or buy the physical book through metaKnyts.com. So that's going to be massive in terms of distribution. Amazon obviously gives us global reach in terms of awareness as well. We are in the process of creating a webtoons version of the story as well. Again, this is all top of the funnel stuff to bring more people in. We've been working with a new streaming network called the Onyx Streaming Network, which is poised to launch shortly, which is really going to be targeting HBCUs and circa 12 million African American Gen Zs. So we've signed an MOU, we've got a licensing deal with them. So there's a lot that we're doing in terms of the distribution and expansion. And there's a very exciting project that we're working on, which I can't go into any detail about at the moment, but that will really get us to kind of mass media awareness in that sense, which we think, is where this project really belongs, because there is no story that is more timely, more comprehensive, more relevant around the tech space around it. And that's the way it is with these media projects in this sense. It is 0 to 1. If you go to 1, this becomes like a unicorn project kind of almost immediately. It certainly won't be overnight because we've been at this for a while. But, now is really a great, we're still very much startup priced. And, again, I think the winds are changing on the Web3 industry as a whole generally. And, we'd love to have you on board, or those of you, we know many of you have already invested in the project, for which we're super grateful. But we're just going to go from strength to strength. And, this Reg CF offering is only open for a month at the moment. We are not able to extend it beyond that currently. We obviously are going to work towards making more rounds available and making ourselves available further. But again, our valuations will just keep going up. So, now is definitely the time to get in further. And together, we can really sort of take this IP and put it at the center of this emerging crypto landscape and do something really transformative. So I think that's about all we have time for. Now, there is a question, so you'll have to forgive. There is a questions and answer, which I have no idea where it is. I'm not sure if. I think what we'll have to do is ask people to send questions in through either through, I think you can add them in the chat. We will be publishing this live, so you can add questions to the chat of the video, which we'll respond to afterwards. Obviously, you can join our Discord. Discord really is the best place where we have a big discussion around it, or you can email us directly. I know that there's a lot of stuff I wanted to cover that I haven't been able to get to. I know that some earlier investors have been having problems getting their NFTs. It is still quite a complicated space, the crypto space. It's not very user friendly. We try to make it as user friendly as possible, but we will be announcing an office hours where people can come and we'll walk through the process of connecting your wallet and minting your NFT and getting that into your wallet for those who haven't been able to. A lot of people have. A lot of our investors have been able to collect their NFTs through the claim site. We will be reactivating the claim site. We can't sort of leave it up indefinitely because it's sort of open security risks, but we will reactivate it and create an office hours for people to come in and learn more about how to claim their NFTs. And of course, as you can see from our presentation earlier, those Knight cards, anyone who has invested to date gets the Knight card and the first episode of the comic. So you're already sort of halfway, well, not halfway, but you're already on the road to building up your own personal personal Nightbook version. So I understand why that's going to be really important for people to get that. But I assure everyone who has invested, we will make sure that every investor gets their NFTs and gets their perks. We are a very, very small team, so it is difficult for us we're trying to find the efficient ways to be able to support from a customer support and inquiry perspective people who are struggling to claim. So we're going to introduce this office hours at least one a month, whereby we'll make ourselves available to help people figure that out. And as we continue to grow the project, we'll build in a customer support team, but that all takes funding. So hence, definitely we are looking for more support and more investment from you, and, so that we can continue to transform this industry. I think it's very important that stories like ours are able to come see the light of day in the world. And there's clearly a need for an increased narrative around this, not only from the perspective of information, data sovereignty, but also as we're increasingly seeing now from AI, So, I can't stress the social importance of this story and this narrative for the next generation as we go into the space. So, come join us and help us, as we go towards, it sounds very hyperbole to talk about changing the world, but it's actually becoming a situation of urgency. When you've got the likes of Elon Musk and Naval Harari, for example, talking about the urgent need to take a pause on AI developments, you see why stories like metaKnyts are so central to the zeitgeist and to the narrative of what's going on. So we need your help to bring this story to more people, so that more people are aware of it, so we can really kind of address these issues and build the technologies that will enable us to be safe and free in this digital paradigm that we're moving in. So with that, I will take a pause and thank you all for joining me today. Again, please, go to Net Capital, metaKnyts. You'll all have seen the link in the emails. It will also be at the bottom of this video. And support, that's what keeps the lights on. That's what keeps the pages flowing. That's what keeps the pixels, illuminating. So join us and, support us and come and join this ride. It's not just a philanthropic support. You will get a very high return your investment through this. This is like, you know, if you had the opportunity to invest in Marvel or DC or Disney, you know, at the beginning, where would you be? So we often talk about intergenerational wealth in our community. Well, you know, it's about intergenerational IP. That's really the key to intergenerational wealth, is intergenerational IP. And it doesn't really get much better than metaKnyts in that sense, both from a creative and technical perspective. So thanks again for taking your time to join us. I know we're a little bit over the hour, so I won't keep you much longer. But, you know, look forward to meeting more of you and talking more with you as we go on this ride together. And look out for some really exciting announcements from us over the coming weeks and months. You know, things are going to start moving quite quickly in that regards. So, you know, stay tuned.